shimmering new music from Cassandra Jenkins. The new album is titled My Light, My Destroyer, and it follows on from her acclaimed second album, An Overview on Phenomenal Nature. We found Cassandra in upstate New York, wrapping up a video shoot, and keen to talk about how she approached making this record after the unexpected success of the previous one.
I had tried to kind of wrap up a record similar to the fashion of my last one, where it came together very quickly. The songs were written like lightning fast. We wrote and recorded everything at the same time, done in a week. And I think what I realized is it's, first of all, very hard to do the same thing twice. And second of all, I was in a very different place when I made my last record versus this one. My last one, I was experiencing a lot of loss and a lot of feeling lost. And that can sometimes knock your lenses like way open in a sort of unsustainable chaos. Whereas this one was sort of, I was on the tail end of 2 years of touring and I was really tired, and I didn't have this kind of chaos in my life. It was very much like a time where I needed to rest and be very quiet and really absorb things. And so I think it took me a little while to regenerate. I think when I get home from tour, I have nothing to say.
Oh yeah, well, that's understandable.
Yeah, I mean it's just I'm like emptied. And so I think it took me a little while to feel like I had anything I wanted to say. And that took, the better half of a year.
Right. Because there are folks who believe that the great art comes out of people who are having tumultuous, emotionally packed lives and things are happening to them on a regular basis. But
Sure.
it doesn't seem like that has to happen with you, because I'm gathering that you weren't in that space to make this record, and that's a pretty good record.
Thank you. I would say, yeah, I think it's very common to create and generate art from a place of tumult. And I would say it's incredibly challenging to try to bottle that up and take it with you throughout every phase of your life. And I would also say that I think for me, I realized it's, yeah, absolutely unsustainable to remain in that state.
Yeah.
So I do have to figure out how to create from different spaces in my life. And of course it continues to go on and change, and I'm dealing with different things every day. And I was really responding a lot to just what it was like to go on tour after 2 years of isolation, and then kind of catching up with the songs that I had written before the pandemic hit. And I just hadn't processed, because it was sort of this sense of arrested development that happened. Last time I spoke with you, I watched it and I was like, oh my God, I was about to get my vaccine, and you were going out to a show, and I was like, a show? Like
That's right.
that was a different time.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, I was just, this record was way more about sort of responding to all of the aftermath of a pandemic and the aftermath of like my last experience of when I was writing a record, and kind of trying to make sense of it all.
Right. So with this record, sonically, it sounds a bit different than the previous one. To me, it has a very kind of 90s vibes during parts of it, especially like, what is it? The Petco
Guilty.
song. I
Yeah.
almost thought I was listening to Veruca Salt for a minute.
Nice.
Outside my window, I saw two doves wrapped up in filthy and true love. The walls are blushing landlord pink. The dishes pile up, my heart sings. It's become my second nature to wander through the pet store.
The producer is Andrew Lappin. So did you and he talk about that kind of thing, about what kind of sound you were looking for?
Yeah, he and I met up to write together one day, and we wrote, the first thing we did together was One of the sort of I feel like every song on the record is sort of an outlier to the record
Yeah.
itself. But one of the weirder songs I think is a song called Tape and Tissue, and he and I wrote that together very quickly, sort of. And we went on to talk on the phone when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to make this record and sort of wrestling with some recordings that I had that I wasn't really happy with. And he became a great reference point for me, a wonderful, articulate, and very, I think, adventurous engineer
Uh-huh.
and producer and songwriter. And I think he was someone that was coming into my life and ready to say, "Hey, I think you can push yourself here. I think you can do better, and I think you can do more." And that voice was the thing that made me want to keep going, and keep working at my songs and keep revising them and saying like, yeah, I'm not happy with this, but I'm not sure why, and I'm gonna sit down and try to figure that out. And working with him is really fun. He's just an incredibly talented human being and just so warm, and he has a really wonderful, just sort of non-judgmental, but very discerning presence.
Okay. And I'm interested in your lyric writing for this one. The song you just mentioned, Tape and Tissue, you're talking about a house full of glue and popsicle sticks, and there are all sorts of little snippets of things like punching the clock in the face and doing things like that. So I'm wondering, how has your lyric writing changed over the years? Do you approach it a different way now than you did in the past?
Yeah, I think I never thought of myself as a lyricist.
Ah,
So when people started referring to me as that, I I kind of looked at it sort of side-eyed, like, me? And I think what happened for me, the transformation that has occurred is that I went from sort of acting in my own creative mind, like any lyric that comes out of me is sort of a fluke, and I just tie it all together and see what I end up with. But on this record, I started to maybe take myself a little bit more seriously, and that's a hard thing to do because
mhm.
you have to admit to yourself that you're trying, and you kind of, as a result, admit to everyone else, like, I'm trying here. This isn't easy, and I'm gonna try to not make it look too hard, but I'm
Yeah.
working really hard at this. And that's a funny, like, very uncool state to be in. But I sort of embraced that, and as a result, I ended up having a lot more fun because I was saying like, I am a lyricist. I'm gonna learn about good lyrics and that other songs have that I really like, and I'm gonna study them, and I'm going to come back with something of my own that feels like I can be in conversation with the things that I love. And so it was really inspiring to basically just admit to myself that I want to write good lyrics. And I had more fun with it. I don't know. I really like, I wasn't afraid to laugh at my own jokes, in the privacy of my own home. And I think that came through.
Right. So do you know, can you mention who some of those lyricists were that you kind of looked to get some
Oh yeah.
inspiration
I
and
mean,
confidence?
some of them are friends and their songs. And I think now is a good time to mention that I love taking classes and lessons with friends.
Oh,
And I think it's a funny thing as an adult that not everyone subscribes to, but I love, I think some people might think it was awkward to take a lesson from a peer or something, but
right.
it's one of the greatest things on earth to have a friend who's an amazing guitar player and to get into their brain and go to that school of thought for, 45 minutes for once a week for a few weeks. But I ended up also taking some more formal classes through the School of Song, which is available to literally everyone around the world
Right.
because it's online.
Uh-huh.
And my friend Phil Weinrobe taught a class about engineering, and I took that class. I took Adrienne Linker's class on songwriting, and I found her discourse about Lucinda Williams and John Prine to be incredibly like, it really was so fun to be in conversation with another songwriter who loves these songs and to actually break them down and say, this is why they are just like hitting me like a ton of bricks. Like,
Right.
this is why it's so good.
Yeah.
It's not a science, but we can break it down. And so I think just being in conversation in that way was really helpful. But I always refer back to some of my old friends. My friend Kristen Andreasen, one of her songs is called Seasick Dawn, with a band called Sometimes Why. I loved them when I was much younger, and that song has always stuck with me. So there I took that idea and I wove it into my song. A honky tonk band I used to play in had the line, outside my window, something about the doves. It was slightly different in Petco.
Uh-huh.
And that line, again, like it really stuck with me. So I took that idea and I sort of transformed it and brought it into my song, the songs from my past that have influenced me. So a lot of it's from friends. I always think about Lucinda Williams. I think about Laurie Anderson. I think about Lou Reed. I think about David Berman. Obviously, he had a
Yeah.
tremendous
Yeah.
effect
Yeah.
on me. I listened a lot to the new Palehound record that came out that year, and love that one. Also, the new Caroline Polachek album that came out. Just I my listening palette is broad, and I'm taking everything
Right.
into the mix.
Well, you mentioned John Prine, and I just spoke to the Colin from the Decemberists, and he had
Cool.
another song on his album that was inspired by John Prine as well. He seems to be getting a lot of traction these days. Mr. Prine does.
A lot of love. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you're taking classes about recording and engineering as well. So does that lead you? I think you did some field recording in order to make this record. So does that have anything to do with what you were just telling me about? That you kind of
The field recording is kind of on its own island. I have a set of binaural headphones that I walk around with,
right,
and they look kind of like these with a cord,
right,
and but they also record in binaural audio.
yeah,
So a lot of what you're hearing is going to be binaural, and it's with these very stealth headphones that I walk around with. And there's not really much engineering to it. It's just onto my phone, onto
yep,
the record. But I did record a lot of my own vocals, and I learned more about vocal chain, how to get a sound that I'm really happy with. And that really affects how I sing. So it's really important as a vocalist to know how to record your own voice, I think, because it's going to change your performance if you're hearing yourself in a way that feels good to you. Whereas if it doesn't sound good, you might not feel as inspired to sing these things in a vulnerable way, in a way that's more open, or whatever it is you're going for. So definitely, I fell in love with a really expensive mic, and I learned how to record it well.
So
And I don't own it.
so when you record, are you by yourself with your vocals, or do you have an engineer anywhere around, or are you the only one there making those kind of decisions about whether it's a take or not and how you should inflect
It's
this, that kind
both.
of thing?
It's all of the above. I think the other thing about learning more about engineering or any instrument that I utilize on my record, even if I'm not a player of that instrument, is I'm better at communicating with the people I'm working with.
Right.
So I'm a better communicator in a recording studio environment than I was a few years ago, because I have a little bit more uh, just of the vocabulary and the experience of using that equipment. But with my vocals, I was often in my room alone. And when that started to drive me absolutely insane, which it does, I would call up usually my friend Katie Von Schleicher, who is an incredible engineer and a great vocal engineer. Like, I sought her out specifically for vocals because she's a incredible singer and also incredible engineer. So I think that combination of things was so helpful when I was on take, like 500 million of this one line of this
Right,
one
right.
song, she would be able to say like, hey, that thing that you just did, just do that. Or, hey, I think we're going in the wrong direction. Let's like take a break. All of that. Just having another voice in the room is really, really helpful.
Oh, I wanted to talk about the Shatner's theme, Aurora, Illinois uh, combo that you've served up on this. It's fascinating for all sorts of reasons. So, so what's going on there?
What's going on there? There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Um, there's the time-space continuum going on.
Right?
There's a deep Wayne's World reference going on in multiple
Wayne's
places
World.
as well. Wayne's World as well as Star Trek reference,
Oh man.
and the two in one via the magic of song.
Right.
And basically, I got stuck in Aurora, Illinois. I got COVID on tour for the second. That was the first time, actually. Sorry. For the first time, I got incredibly ill. It was no joke.
Oh,
And I was basically, I kicked myself off of the tour that I was on and stayed in the hotel I was happened to be in, which was happened to be in Aurora, Illinois. And that, as some of you may know, is the home of Wayne's World.
yes.
That is where Wayne and Garth are from and in the film. And I sort of leaned on that to feel good about where I was, because I was really upset that I wasn't on tour, and I was really upset that I was sick and losing money and losing what felt like so much in that moment. And I watched Wayne's World on repeat and just got really into it and thought, this isn't where I'm stuck. This is where I'm getting better. This is where I'm healing.
Ah,
And this is where I'm learning whatever I need to learn. A growth opportunity, as they say in some circles. And uh, I was kind of frustrated. Oftentimes, I really struggle with the second verse of a song. It's the verse where I know it's gonna kind of bring everything together, and it's sort of a place in the song that I don't know. I've often struggled with. And I was struggling with that one with Aurora. It just felt like the second verse like wasn't taking us anywhere. And I had just learned about the event, the real life event, William Shatner going to space, thanks to Jeff Bezos, a lifelong Trekkie.
yes.
What a wild thing to have happen in my lifetime.
Yep.
The record has since been broken for oldest man in space, by the way. But at the time, he was the oldest man in space. And so my song stood as fact checked and corrected at the time. And those two things, believe it or not, cross over in one scene in Wayne's World, in which Wayne and Garth are on the hood of the car, looking up at the stars outside of the airport, watching planes fly above them and make their hair go crazy and everything. And Garth is whistling the Star Trek theme song.
Oh, there you go.
So I was like, you know what? I probably will get in trouble with the law if I put the Star Trek theme song on my record, and I'm not going to do that to the people the wonderful people at Dead Oceans. So I'm going to write my own theme song. And how can I get Molly Lewis to whistle this?
Right.
And so for like 3 months, I was like asking everybody how to get in touch with Molly Lewis. And finally, she emailed me from her hotel room in Paris and said, "Hey, I got
Nice.
the track. I'll whistle something tonight." And sure enough, it's on the record. So that's the sort of trifecta there.
Nice one. Yeah. Now, if Jeff Bezos called you and said he'd offer you a chance to go up in space, would you take him up on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, it's a weird way to go.
That's what I'd be thinking first. It's like, all right, if that's it, is that it?
I would have to like sage the hell out of myself when I got home, and hope that I don't have a mental breakdown from seeing the Earth from space, as people sometimes do.
Right.
I'm pretty sensitive, so I think I would need some kind of training, and not like NASA training, but like psychological training before that would happen.
Right?
Yeah. I hope that someday I'll look back on this video and be like, wow, space was great. So funny. I was talking about it in 2024.
You never know. And now you did some shows in the UK, I think, recently before the record release and all that. So, the record's not out yet.
Yeah.
But how did those? Were you doing those to kind of test the waters with the songs, or in front of real people?
Yeah, we were invited to Rough Trade, and Rough Trade is one of the best record stores out there and
Right.
have been really supportive. And my bandmates out there, who are also in a band called Lilo, happened to be releasing their record that same week that Rough Trade asked me to come play. And I thought, yeah, let's do this. They'll release their record. I came and sat in and sang with them, and then they came and backed me up at Rough Trade, and it was just like a big family reunion. I hadn't seen them since 2022, so I've missed them a lot. And then I got to play in Brighton as well, a solo show, which was terrifying, but I think everybody enjoyed themselves.
Was it terrifying because it was in Brighton or because it was solo?
Oh, no, it was really fun to be in Brighton. Are you kidding? I'd never been there before. I don't really like playing solo, but I love seeing other people play solo. So I recognize the merit in it, and I recognize that it can be really fun to hear things really stripped back. But you're so vulnerable. You're so exposed. Just you and acoustic guitar up there. But so power to anyone doing that.
Did you get to go on the beach in Brighton?
Nope.
Oh man. And you didn't
The
run
flash in the pan.
And I think Nick Cave lives there now, so you might run.
Well, I did pass by Jubilee Street.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So the record's coming out on, was it July 12th? What do you got planned for the day? Anything exciting?
Yeah, we're going to play at Rough Trade in New York in Rockefeller Center, which is in Manhattan, which is also where I live. It's just a short walk from my house. And I'm going to play 3 solo acoustic songs and sign some records and meet some folks and celebrate like on the actual day, which is really fun. We're playing a show the night before. I'm also doing a listening party at a planetarium. Wish me luck. I've never done this before, but I decided that it was time to make a planetarium show out of this. And
you should invite William Shatner.
I should invite William Shatner. You're right. I will. I'll find a way. Somebody's related to William
Or at least
Shatner.
getting to record a voiceover to introduce the thing with,
That would be the craziest thing in the world. Thank you for this idea.
I'm here for.
Let's make it happen. We're putting it out there on the internet, so
absolutely, it has to
Shatner,
happen now.
If you're listening. Patrick Stewart, also love you.
Sure, yeah.
So
I think
yeah, and then
on the Counselor Troy once.
Yes, everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
I did actually, while I was at the planetarium doing sketches for this show, I did come across a Whoopi Goldberg narrated one.
Right.
And of course, she was on Star Trek Next Gen, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've found the heart of the planetarium show.
Yep.
So yeah, and then on the 13th, I think that's the day after the record comes out. I think I want to come right back here and sit on my grandmother's porch and not speak a word and just listen to the birds and the crickets, and just that's it.
Yep.
That's all, folks.
A little, but then you are going out on the road like in September, right?
Yeah, I have a little respite before that starts,
good.
which I'm really grateful for. It's gonna, I'm excited to have a little bit of time off.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's summertime. Living is easy.
Yeah.
It's winter here. Not so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I always forget that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Earth is crazy.
It is. It genuinely is round, apparently. So that's why.
That's what they say.
So you're not one of those, are you?
No. But I like to keep you guessing.
Okay, you got to keep your options open. Very good. Well, I can't. It sounds like everything's happening, and you're having a ball, so that's a good thing. And
Yeah.
like I said, the record is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for making it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much for having me.
you're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
You too. See you in space.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.